What's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and featured titan and pizza connoisseur. I'm super excited to introduce Annichen Kassel. Thank you so much. Hey, you know what? I definitely want to do a pizza.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. And just to apologize ahead of time, we are going to be eating pizza and we're going to be drinking, so it's just a part of it. So
no apology necessary. I'm sure everyone understands.
Yeah, the pizza is amazing. But Annichen, I'm super excited to have you. It's an honor, absolute honor to share your story. Really, everybody out there to get to know you personally, professionally. I just want to dive into the questions, if that's okay.
More into cannonballs myself, but your show, your rules.
Okay, diving. We're going to cannonball.
All right, let's do it.
That's much better. It's cannonballing.
Make a splash.
Let's do it. But I guess let's just start with telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've lived in Colorado for about 17 years now. Okay. I grew up outside of Chicago, thus the love for pizza.
Chi-town.
Learned from my dad, the best. And then I actually lived in Montreal for a bit when I was 10 and 11, and then my parents moved us here when I was 13.
Cool.
So, I don't know, I like to do Colorado stuff. I mean, I don't like to do the cliche 14ers or anything like that, unfortunately.
That's right. Because you're original. You're not blending in. Come on.
Yeah, I'll just complain the whole time. So I told my friends to stop inviting me.
I love it.
But I just like doing Denver things and finding new restaurants, hanging out with friends, skiing. I grew up around here in Centennial, and then I went to CSU for college, and I majored in English with a minor in French.
Wow, very cool.
Obviously didn't do anything with that except for maybe correct my friends' grammar and annoy them.
You know, but that's important. That's an important thing.
It really is. It's a lost art.
That's right.
And then I graduated and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So
Sure.
I actually studied wine for a bit.
Get out of here.
And then now I just know how to, drink it really well.
Well,
that's all I know.
I'll have to cheers you to that.
Yeah. I have 2 drinks.
We're here. I was going to say we got to watch out for Brad.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys can
Brad.
see that. That's how we know.
And Ryan.
What we're drinking. This is the best. This is
drink
awesome.
markers. Oh no.
Oh no.
Ryan's down. Okay, so yeah, I got into the wine thing, worked at a couple restaurants, and then my 2 friends and I, we all quit our jobs and did the Europe thing for a few months.
Oh, okay.
And which was awesome.
What was that like? I mean, just for everybody out there. I mean, where'd you guys go?
We went to 12 countries, which was amazing. We started in Iceland, which was awesome, and went all over, as far south as Greece. We visited my family in Norway. We went to Eastern Europe, which was really fun just because it's more affordable, and we had, a really low budget.
Sure.
Staying in hostels, so it was such a good time. I recommend everybody does that before they get into their career.
I agree.
And then I got back thinking I'd have this epiphany and know what I'd want to do with my life, but I didn't. And so got back into the restaurant thing, and then actually my dad suggested that I try real estate. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm bored. Let's try it. Okay. And it actually ended up being the perfect job for me. So.
It's to me it's fascinating, and so many of the viewers of this particular series and show as to why people get into their business and what's going on, and your path of going through life and exploring and experiencing everything that it is, and falling somehow into real estate. I think it's fascinating, and what you've built and what you continue to build, your reputation in the community is fantastic. So I want to give everybody a little bit of window into why you do what you do. So after the fact, you've been in real estate. What was your career path from when you started to right now? What did that look like?
Well, I started actually on a team, which was really good. I just learned a bunch of skills. They were like the #1 real estate team in Colorado, I learned a lot from them. And then eventually I spread my little real estate wings and flew away. And I mean, that's pretty much how I got here, and decided to just kind of take a leap of faith and get out of my comfort zone and do my own thing.
Love it. And I think that, you had a lot of foresight or thought process to going into it, on a team first.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they want to go solo right off the bat, but there's so much education and mentorship and opportunity to grow. But you know when it's right to kind of take off that leap of faith, as you said.
And honestly, when I got my real estate license, I still had no idea. I mean,
the truth, yeah.
Tell me somebody that actually knew what they were supposed to do next.
Put comments down below if you disagree with this. I mean, that's crazy.
No idea. So I really recommend it, especially if you're younger. I'd never even bought a house before, so I didn't understand the process in any way. And they definitely don't teach you how to actually be a real estate agent, how to negotiate, how to write contracts in detail. And so you have to learn that from somebody.
Love it.
So.
I think that a lot of people can resonate with that in multiple industries, not just real estate, but you go to school, you get an education, whether you're getting a license or anything along those lines for certifications. You don't really learn until you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can read books and explore theory, but you said it perfectly. And I think that there's so many people that are nodding their heads saying, yes, I get it, I understand, coming through. So let's go into the portion of your why. The next question, Annichen. I mean, really, what motivates you? What drives you to do what you do to the level you do it at? I mean, what gets you excited every day out of bed in the morning?
Money and power.
Ah, here it is. Here's the honest truth, everybody. Okay.
I'm just kidding. But honestly, a lot of it is just to fund an amazing life outside of work. I don't
Love it.
Live to work. I work to live. And so I like to travel and try new restaurants, go to the mountains, and be with family. That's all that's important to me. And so I'm really all about having fun. And honestly, I'll argue this until I'm in my grave. You can't have too much fun as long as you're not, in financial trouble.
That's right. That's right. There's certain levels and layers that way, but that spirit is so amazing. And there's
people lose it really easily too.
They do, especially high producing professionals and people who are very career oriented or focused. It's just you gotta take some time to enjoy yourself.
Right.
And I think that's great advice all the way through. And for your why, in portions of having that ability for freedom, I think is amazing.
Oh, it's so nice. I would have not thrived if I was in a 9-to-5 job where it was, always knew when I was going to clock out. I would go insane. That's what I did in college. Honestly, in the first couple of years, I did really badly because all I'd do is watch the clock and then do stupid math. Like, okay, so I've got 40 minutes left of class. That means I have 4 10 minutes left.
Wow. Like, it's there.
That's all I do. And so when I don't know when I'm going to clock out and when I'm my own boss, I'm very self-motivated and it's enjoyable. I don't hate going to work. I love it. It's not work to me. So.
And that's a part of your passion and your why, and I think that's a good window into Annichen and everybody really getting to understand who you are and what you do and why you do it. Going through that portion, I want to explore that a little bit more because there's a lot of younger professionals or even some seasoned professionals that are looking to make changes in their lives and career changes and things along those lines. So when you're talking about really just kind of diving into your career that you would go crazy in a 9-to-5, somebody who's thinking about getting out of one, from your perspective, right, doing this every day and being your own boss, the CEO of what you do, would you give any advice that way to anybody who's watching or listening? Like, hey, you should probably blank.
I would say, well, okay, so do you watch Parks and Recreation?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
So Ron Swanson says, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. One of my favorite quotes.
There you go. That's great. Ron Swanson.
And it couldn't be more true. I didn't just dip my toe in and keep my restaurant job, which anyone who's worked in restaurants, it's addictive. It's great money, quick money. Yep. It's an addictive lifestyle, but I was like, nope, I'm just going for it. I quit my job and just 100%ed real estate. You can't just kind of do it because then your career will never take off.
That is super compelling and huge information. I think that there's so many of us that are nervous about doing that and making that. Oh no! Shoot, he's just having a hard time today. Gosh, this guy, Ryan. Come on, Brad's hanging in there. But I think that when you're looking at it from that standpoint, there's so many of us that are fearful of what ifs and the unknowns. And but I do agree with you 100%. You have to go all in and you really, really focus because if you don't, you're going to half-ass it.
Yep.
You know, and it's just not going to be the best income and the outcome. And I think that if you look at it, why would you do something halfway? Do it all the way or don't do it at all. Figure something else out. So I think that's great. And then that segues into the next question, which I think is awesome. Into it. Here we go. Number 3 is, you know, if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose 1 or 2 things that you added to your business that took it from one level to the next, what's that look like for you? And this is a crowd pleaser for the newer professional and the seasoned professional to really see kind of what the Titans are doing to grow their business or what they've seen for success.
Well, the biggest one that comes to mind is that it's when I realized that one business plan isn't necessarily perfect for everyone.
Ooh, good.
So I've, you know, worked for companies where they have this one business plan that they all swear by, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. It absolutely works, but it just didn't work for me. And so when I first got into real estate, it was all about cold calling and FISBOs and calling on expires, door knocking. I hated my life. I just hated it. I don't like, well, nobody likes rejection, but cold calling is just an extreme form of that. I was so uncomfortable, and I just dreaded going to work every day. And then one day I realized, I'm like, wait, no one's my boss. I don't have to do this if I don't want to.
Right.
And literally, when I stopped doing that and just instead started focusing on what I'm good at, that is when my business propelled. And so I was just, honestly, for lack of a better word, myself. I just used Facebook a lot. I get a lot of my business from that, and not the whole posting on there saying, "Do you know anyone who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate?" Like, nobody's gonna message you and say, "Yes, I do."
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Actually, here's a list.
I was waiting for that.
Yes, I've just been searching my feed.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for saying that. By the way, thank you.
So people don't. Okay, my employing broker actually told me this, but he read it somewhere. Don't know from who. Yeah. But he said people love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. And so people can see right through you. They like when you're genuine and yourself. And so I don't ever sell. I just post what I'm doing every day. And sometimes that's selling real estate. Yeah. And it's usually about my clients and how they're awesome, because they always are.
Sure.
But a lot of the times it's about pizza or my pug or
drinking a beer and having pizza.
And so I kind of, exactly. I kind of have a rule of thumb. 80% personal life, 20% business.
That's great.
If that, like 90-10, if anything.
Wow. And to me, if everybody out there who's watching or listening to this didn't write that down or pause it, note that 80-20 rule, or even more than 90-10. I'm a firm believer. We work with who we know, like, and trust.
Right.
No one wants to work with a carbon copy of a carbon copy. They want to work with originals, people that they can hang out with and understand and know that they have their backs. And if you walk like a duck and talk like a duck, it's going to be very difficult for you to differentiate yourself from your competitors and then anybody else in the market. So obviously you do that beautifully all the way through and through. Your people love you and respect you, your past clients, and then your friends and family. That all kind of comes through, and it's because you are you. You know, and it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of professionals to just be yourself.
Yeah. Agents get a bad rap. Like, I notice in movies, they kind of misrepresent, at least me, a bit, it feels like, because I had a client one time, he was, I don't even remember the context, but he was saying, like, well, and I know you're just trying to sell to me, and I stopped him and I was like, wait, listen, I really want to make sure you understand this. I am your representative. You are in my best interest. Right. I only want good for you. I'm not selling to you. And I just wanted to make sure he knew that, because I think that can kind of get misconstrued a bit.
That's a bummer too, and I think that does happen more often than not, more than any of us want to admit. But I think that, again, the more you are, the more original you are, and being that genuine nature, that's what people connect with. Yeah. And that's what people prefer. I mean, at the end of the day, they want to work that way. So I think that's huge advice for everybody. So pause it, rewind it, do whatever you need to do, lock that in. That is huge stuff.
Oh, and one more, sorry.
Oh, no. Keep it coming, Annichen.
Just with the social media thing. This actually wasn't my idea. I went to some kind of panel, and someone said, in your content, it should people respond best to either something that's heartfelt or funny. Because everybody loves to laugh.
I would agree.
I don't know anyone that's like, I hate smiling.
Terrible. Turn that off. No, but that's so true. And anybody who's connected with you on social media, which if you're not, and you need to, I mean, on any variant, Facebook, Instagram, the whole nine. But I think that
we'll be entertained.
it puts a smile on your face, and you know, life is so challenging for so many of us, and there's so much drama or negativity. It's just nice to be lighthearted and really just look at it that way because it's too short. You know?
It really is.
So I love that vibe, and that's a great ad. Come on, be funny. If you got a sense of humor, use it. If you don't, I'm sorry. I mean, that's just tough. I don't know what to say.
You know what? Any other wrinkles except for the smile ones?
Oh, that's a quote right there. That's a beautiful quote. Okay, so I do want to shift gears into this, and this is actually the tricky part of this particular interview. And for everybody out there, it's the challenge question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
a
not...
dreaded challenge.
Dun, dun, dun. But at the end of the day, we all deal with challenges, right? We all have struggles in our lives. Sometimes it's in the past. Now we're dealing with it, or into the future. No one's exempt. But at the end of the day, I really believe it's not so much what happens, but how we respond, what we learn from it, what we can share. So if you're comfortable, Annichen, sharing a challenge that you dealt with everybody out there, what's that look like for you?
Well, I was trying to decide if I wanted to talk about this or not.
Okay.
You know, I like to keep it light, and I still can.
Yes.
So, because I feel like it's something that should be talked about more.
Okay.
So, for me, it was in my late teens, early 20s. I was depressed for a really, really long time.
Okay.
Like 7 years probably. And it got so bad that I forgot what I was actually like before. So I just kind of started to think that I'm lazy and I don't like to do things, and I'm just kind of going to be perpetually sad. And and then one day, I don't know why, but I just kind of noticed that and decided to make a change. And honestly, that was a big thing. And so all you have to do, you shouldn't be ashamed of feeling sad or depressed or anything, but you should be able to talk about it to your friend or something. And there's no excuse if you don't have friends, because you can literally pay a therapist and they have to listen to you.
Listen to what...
Write that down.
Right there. There's another one. But I mean, what you're saying there, Annichen, and again, thanks for opening up, you know, to everybody. It's not easy to air your stuff out in front of everybody that way. But I think that when it comes to depression, anxiety, it's a serious thing, and it is very common. I find it to be more common than not.
Oh, it's getting worse and worse because social media this isn't news. Everybody knows this. You go through your feed and you see people are getting married and having babies, and you're like, oh, I'm so unhappy.
Sure.
But nobody posts, I'm so depressed and I'm having a terrible day.
This sucks right now.
You don't know what's going on in everyone's life. Everyone has their own baggage, and everyone's going through a rough time at some point. So just embrace it and then become stronger for it. So
you know, I love that attitude. And again, anybody out there who's dealing with these struggles or hardships, just know that you can reach out to others and you can change it. Nothing is permanent in this life.
Yeah.
And it's just the amount of effort.
Yeah.
Do you want it to change? Do you want to improve? And, you know, look at this person here. I mean, just beaming with light and energy and
you
positive.
You would have never guessed, right? I'm a happy person.
Exactly right.
And it didn't show. I mean, and then, well, kind of piggybacking off that, another challenge with being in my 20s, I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, where you feel lost, you don't know what you want to do with your life, and that's super stressful. Sure. Everyone makes it seem like the 20s are awesome.
Right.
But you know what all I hear about is the 30s, and I just turned 30, so I'm super excited.
Yes!
I'm trying to be positive.
There we go.
But in that, and also one thing professionally I've dealt with is kind of an ageism thing, and I'm not...
Yeah.
I'm not crying about it, but everybody kind of deals with something, and everyone has their own challenges with that. But I guess one thing I've run into a lot is people not taking me seriously enough because of my age.
Right.
And how can you fix that? I mean, you can't control everyone.
You can't.
So I just try and use professionalism and just kind of prove them wrong by showing it. And I mean, it doesn't work every time. I've been fired purely because I'm too young.
Young, right? Which to me is
And
it's ridiculous. Yeah. And that's the truest form of judging a book by its cover.
Right.
Just because you're young doesn't mean that you're inexperienced, and just because you're old it doesn't mean that you know everything.
Right.
I've seen reverse both ways, right? Young professionals being extremely well, right? But I think that at the end of the day, and for anybody out there who's dealt with that, I've dealt with that my whole life. So I understand what you're talking, being the youngest person in the room and having people prejudge.
I hope people aren't getting grossed out like, oh my god.
Yeah.
She's only 30, she needs to cry me a river.
So sad.
Again, everyone has their own struggles, and I'll have different ones when, I get older.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, but I think anybody out there who really hears that, just know that just learn as much as you can, be as professional as you can, and when you open your mouth and you do, that's going to speak louder than your words, louder than an impression, just as long as you're not stopped right off the bat.
Exactly.
And if somebody, to my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody out there, write in the comments, but if someone is going to reject you because you're too young or too old, that's not the right person to work with anyway.
Yeah, that's true. You don't fit. It's funny because as real estate agents, of course, we want to work with anyone we can find. Because, You know what, Ryan? You hang out with the pizza.
Ryan, pizza time. All right, bud?
He's drunk.
That's right. He's not enough.
And I lost my train of thought. But, you're not necessarily going to meld with everybody.
Right.
And also, with the age thing, the other thing is just work with what you got, you know?
Well
that can be an attribute, too. Anything can. My mom, I get this from her, she's really good at spinning. Like, I could murder someone, and she'd be like, at least she covered her track well.
Oh, I love that. Your mom's a good person.
She just only sees the good in me, so she'll spin anything I do, even if it's horrible. And so I'm actually good at that, too. And so you can spin anything.
Yes, in a positive way. And I wish more of us would think that way. It's not easy to do, but it's a mindset thing. Again, dealing with our issues, headstrong and going through it to make the best case scenario out of everything we deal with. Right?
Yeah.
We have the cards we're dealt. You do the best you can. You improve people's lives. So I think that's great. So thanks for sharing those challenges. And again, everybody, hopefully you appreciate that because that is not easy to do, trust me when I tell you. But I do want to shift gears into a slightly softer question.
Okay.
Round two, here we go.
Take a bite, so it might take me a second to answer. Cheers. I just switched drinks.
Well, I got a pizza. Cheers.
Oh yeah, cheers.
So we're taking a bite. Sorry, everybody.
Thanks for Greg.
So with the next question into that, it's actually one of my favorite questions. And this one is the travel back in time question. So no one has a crystal ball. No one has a time machine. But if we did, and you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice or two, any age range, any time frame, what would you say to your younger self?
Firstly, don't overpluck your eyebrows.
That's a real thing, everybody.
Every girl does it. Don't do it.
Love it.
Seriously, I fully plan on just presenting pictures to my future daughter. Like, look at what happened.
Please don't. Listen to your mother.
Right.
At least this one time.
Let's see. Avoid window wells.
Okay.
Fall down them. Don't play cornhole. You will break your feet.
Oh, no.
That's a true story. It's really embarrassing.
Oh, I love it.
But I guess trust your gut is a big one. I can't tell you, even as recently as a month ago, my gut was screaming at me. Because it does. But it's so easy to ignore it. It's so easy. But I feel like you can trust that more than anything. And sometimes it's a difficult decision, which is why you ignore it. But just don't. Because there's a reason it's difficult, but I don't know, you can't, you just gotta trust it.
I think that there's the gut feeling, intuition, there's so many different ways to break that down that's connecting, but we do, as people, we ignore certain things.
Yeah.
My thought process into this, personally, is if there's a thought, gut feeling, and instinct, and for some reason it's not going away.
Yeah.
And if you have an initial thought and then it goes away, maybe okay to ignore it. But if there's something lingering and it stays, that's your body or your mind or your heart telling you something. And, and I'm a firm believer in exactly what you just said.
Sometimes you're just hungry and need pizza, but if you've eaten and it's still yelling at you.
If it's still there, have another slice, right? Have another slice of life.
Listen to it.
But I think that's so telling into that. But being in tune, listen to your body, listen to what's going on. Yeah. I think that's really smart. As far as the eyebrows and the window well, that's another episode. We'll get get the information on that. Maybe we'll post some pictures. Who knows? You guys got to stay tuned.
I think I burned all the evidence long
like,
ago.
No, that's not happening, Greg. But no, that's great advice. And again, for everybody included who's tuning in, myself as well. So I do want to go into the another crowd pleaser for this particular series. It's the education portion, right? So a lot of the viewers or subscribers of this series, they want to know what the Titans are doing to feed their minds, right? How they're growing intellectually that way. So Annichen, books you're reading, podcasts you're listening to, influencers and social media coaches, how are you feeding your mind?
So I'm really interested in just the human psyche and looking inward because honestly I feel like self-awareness is a really rare attribute. Most people are not self-aware.
Well said.
And I wasn't even that self-aware until maybe 5 years ago. Therapy people. Right. And so I'm really interested in personal assessments, books like that. One in particular is called the Enneagram.
Okay.
I swear by that. It's there's plenty of personality tests out there, but I've never read one that's so accurate. And the nice thing about it is it's not like, you know, a zodiac thing where it's like, it takes a while for you to open up and just like anyone can relate to. Of course it does.
Yeah, right.
Because it's actually kind of hard to read sometimes because basically there's it's like almost a clock with 9 numbers and you have one number that you identify with, but it doesn't just lump you into one category. You kind of meld in others, but you do have a chapter on yourself.
Very
and it talks about how you are at your most healthy and then your least healthy and in between. And then it gives you advice on how you can improve yourself in your life. And just knowing yourself is so powerful.
Right.
Because you can't control anyone but yourself. And so
Well said.
I just like to read books like that.
Okay. Very cool. Well, and having that self-awareness portion is huge. And like you said earlier, not a lot of us have that portion. So, you know, any way that you can learn and grow from that, that's awesome. That's going to go on my list.
Right?
I love to read.
It's so good. The book is called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. There's a bunch. You can look it up online, but that's the book to read.
Love it.
And then in terms of podcasts, I'm actually starting a podcast myself.
Yes. Okay. So we talked about this just a second ago, but I want everybody to know out there. So what is it? What's it about? When can we hopefully start to tune in an audio file, that sort of thing?
I would say, let me think. In a couple weeks, maybe less actually. A couple weeks probably.
Cross our fingers.
I'm sorry I don't have a date.
No, that's really cool.
I'm not the most organized when it comes to that.
No, you're good.
Except for managing dates and deadlines.
There we go. That's a different scenario, everybody.
Professionally speaking.
That's it.
But it's called La Vie en Rosé, Happy Hour with Ani and Stan. Kristen is my friend that I'm doing it with.
I love it.
And so we're literally going to be drinking a bottle of rosé every time we do an episode.
Okay.
Hopefully not develop a drinking problem because of it.
No, come on.
And really just talk about relatable stuff. We're both in our early 30s, and I feel like sometimes that age range kind of gets skipped over a bit.
Well said.
But anyone will be able to relate to it. So we're going to talk about stuff that you think but don't talk about, I guess is a way to put it.
I love it.
One of the episodes is called Online Dating, You're Doing It Wrong. Because I could literally write a book on online dating.
I love it.
So it's just going to be fun, and we'll talk about anything. So.
Okay, and I'm a big fan of, you know, content creators and, you know, getting different perspectives and real life information. So I think that's going to be an amazing podcast to tune into. Just so everybody knows, as soon as that is launched and live, I will put links down below so that you can tune in, you know, on whatever audio file they're on, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I'll get the links and share that with you. But yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm
Annichen.
so excited.
That's great.
I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and actually you kind of inspired me to get it going a bit. So you were like, it's easy. Anyone can do it.
Well, that is true.
It's not that easy. I saw him set up. It's not easy.
You're like, there's a lot going on back here. We'll take a behind-the-scenes shot. But okay, and I love that again because where you're learning and where you're growing is super great, and being self-aware and then creating your own content, getting it from different sources and partnering. I mean, that's what learning is all about. Obviously, you know and continually learn your craft in real estate and you're involved in the markets, but it's not all about that. And I think that's back at the beginning. You know, you love what you do, but that's not who you are.
Right.
You know,
It's just one part of me.
I love that. That's such a deep thought.
And you can easily, this career especially, we get so caught up in it because it's easy to become a workaholic with that. And there's, I feel like the American dream has gotten a bit skewed in terms of taking time off. You kind of feel ashamed almost to take vacation.
Right.
I do not feel ashamed, no matter how many vacations I take.
Listen.
If I can afford it, that means I've worked hard enough to earn a vacation.
Well said.
So
I think that's those memories that we have and experiences in our lives. That's really what is enriching. I mean, you can always buy more stuff.
Right.
You can have more investments. Don't get me wrong. You want to be fiscally responsible, but I think that at the end of the day, I mean, that's what life is about. So I love the fact that earlier on you were traveling and experiencing and taking that time off. And again, I agree with that 100%. Before you jump into a career or even during your career, travel, experience culture, the different art and cuisine and view counts. I mean, I just think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Relationships and all of it.
And that's the nice thing about my job is because even if I'm traveling, I'm still available all the time. I'm still working, but I'm doing it. Oh my God.
That's right. Still working and making that happen. We're like, here, this is live, everybody. Cheers to that, Annichen.
We've been like,
cheers to that. This is awesome.
Eating and drinking since we've been setting up. So
this is how it goes down
so
here
funny.
on Titans.
You're like, even before we went live, you were like, it's live, so you're gonna cough, you're gonna sneeze.
Burp is in there too. It's all there. This is awesome, everybody. Hopefully you appreciate this. I do. This is great. Annichen, this has been
awesome.
Amazing. I mean, great information, super engaging, compelling. I mean, I know there's so many good takeaways for everybody out there. I just want to wrap everything up with a final question.
Sure.
And it ends up being the quote or mantra that you live by. and I say that with a big smile because not everybody does, but what sums you up as a person, a professional, with a quote or a mantra, if you live it? What's that look like for you?
There's no such thing as too much cheese.
I would agree with that.
There kind of is. I've overdone it. I'm just
so
kidding.
Good. No.
Always ask for extra cheese. That's a better mantra.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's eat the dessert first. Life's too short.
Right.
One of those. Like, yeah. I get
But I guess the mantra I live by, we've kind of touched on it a bunch, is don't take life too seriously. So I mean, can't say it better than that, really.
Yeah,
just enjoy it. Get the smile wrinkles.
Just
work on those, because you got to embrace it, because it's going to happen. Age is going to happen, so might as well focus it in on something good.
You might as well. I mean, that matters. I don't know if it's true or not. I've never actually looked it up or talked to anybody, but I think you use more muscles frowning.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So, I mean, smile.
It's an effort. It's so much easier to smile. I don't even know how to frown.
That was actually pretty good. I don't know if I can. What's going on again? This has been amazing.
Yeah,
I seriously honored to have you.
Yeah,
I mean, I know everybody appreciates this. You are an official real estate titan. I gotta shake that hand.
Yeah.
I gotta do that in there. Yes, everybody, and thank you so much for your time and attention. As always, your love and support. If you like what we're doing here with Real Estate Titans, please throw us a like on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube, and have a listen on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcast. Live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location, and we'll catch everybody on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care.
Thanks, guys.